Hi, this is Shannon, and I will be reading you selections from the Sandwich Enterprise, dated Friday, March 21st, 2025. Our first headline is, To Demo or Not to Demo? Jarvisville Home Awaits Site Visit Report, by Amy Rothman. The demolition of a historic two-family home at 32 Church Street in Sandwich's Jarvisville Historic District is awaiting approval from the town's Historic District Committee, but the committee has not yet reached a consensus. In its meeting last week, the committee was unable to make a decision. Instead, property owner New Year Holdings 4 LLC requested another continuance for the hearing regarding a certificate of appropriateness. This marks the fourth time the hearing has been continued. The owners first appeared before the committee on January 10th to seek approval for the certificate. The certificate of appropriateness is a requirement for any work done on properties within the Sandwich Historic District. Located within this district, the home at 32 Church Street is also part of the unique Jarvisville neighborhood that once housed the 18th century Boston and Sandwich Glass Factory. The Jarvisville Historic District was formally established in 2010 when it was listed on the National Register of Historic Districts. Historic preservation concerns. The historic value of the home has been a subject of concern. According to local historians, few historic homes remain in the Jarvisville district. At the Historic District Committee meeting on January 27th, Richard A. Claytor, chairman of the Historical Commission, voiced his worries about the potential demolition. Since the establishment of the Jarvisville Historic District, we've lost 8 structures in Jarvisville to either demolition or replacement, he said. Mr. Clayton also expressed concerns that the home could be older than suggested in the application. While the application states that the house was built in 1920, he pointed to evidence from an 1858 Walling map of Sandwich that indicates the home could be much older. Clearly, all evidence suggests that the house is much older than that, he stated. Additionally, Jeannie Vander Pyle, a resident of Jarvisville, spoke against the demolition. She highlighted the house's importance as a two-family, affordable rental property in the community. It is not an eyesore, but in relatively good shape, she said, urging the committee to consider its value for local residents. Ms. Vander Pyle also questioned whether the new home to replace it would be an affordable option for young families and senior citizens, or will it just be another multi-dollar profit-making structure? A cautious approach. The committee has taken a cautious approach, taking time to review the concerns raised by the public. After the January 27th meeting, the group decided to schedule a site visit with a historic preservation specialist before making a decision. However, as of the committee's February 10th meeting, the site visit had not yet been completed. Chairman George Pete Williams informed the committee that the consideration of the application would be delayed again, with a new hearing scheduled for March 10th. The site visit with the preservationist has been scheduled and will be completed for that March meeting, noted alternate member Sabrina Spalding. Awaiting results of site visit. On March 10th, the committee reconvened, but once again, they did not have a report to review from the Historic Preservation Specialist site visit. Leanne Drake, Director of Community Development, informed the committee that the applicant had requested another continuance. Today I received an email from the applicant requesting a continuance until the next meeting on March 24th, Ms. Drake said. The committee had a site visit today with 2 of the Historic District Committee members, a member of the Historical Commission, our Historic Preservation Specialist from the Cape Cod Commission, and our specialist will be writing a report to the committee on her findings. The applicant would like to continue so that we have a chance to review all that prior to making a decision. Member Corinne M. Ritter made a motion to continue the hearing until March 24th, which was seconded by Spalding. Before the committee could proceed with other business, a member of the public, Ross Vanderpyle, rose to speak. He questioned why the meeting had not been scheduled earlier to allow more time for the committee to review the findings. Miss Spaulding responded that the March 10th date had been agreed upon by both the homeowner and the town. "You were just there this morning, right?" Mr. Vanderpyle replied. "We just learned about this continuance after the site visit," Mr. Williams responded. Frustrated by the lack of answers, Mr. Vanderpyle left the meeting. Several other members of the public followed suit, with lingering questions left unanswered. Looking ahead, the fate of 32 Church Street remains uncertain as the committee continues to review the preservationist report. The next meeting is scheduled for Monday, March 24th at 6:30 p.m. at Sandwich Town Hall, located at 130 Main Street. Our next headline is Town Shares Staggering Estimate for DPW Fire Station Project by Taylor Frizzetti. The cost estimate for the proposed joint Department of Public Works and Fire Station in Sandwich comes in at an amount that town manager George H. Bud Dunham calls staggering. Mr. Dunham shared this ballpark estimate for the project during the Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday. Although Mr. Dunham said that an official total cost estimate for the project from experts has not been given yet, he, along with Finance Director William Jennings and other town officials, have come up with a ballpark estimate in the range of a little under $50 million to $60 million for the joint facility project. The aging fire station, originally constructed in 1950, is outdated and, due to its proximity to the floodplain, is at risk of flooding during heavy storms and rising seas. The Sandwich Department of Public Works facility, built in 1972, is also considered too small, run down, and past its useful lifespan. The current DPW facility does not meet safety code requirements. Mr. Dunham, along with town officials, calculated estimated tax impacts based off of a 30-year bond borrowed at 4%. The estimated tax impacts were also calculated using a level principal payment method. It starts out that you're paying way more than you will over time, and then it slowly goes off over those 30 years until it disappears, Mr. Dunham said regarding the level principal method. The reason most towns do debt that way is because you're a town and there are other things that you will be adding over time, so you are trying to ride the wave when it starts to go down, and you need to add something else you can level off as best as you can. If the project were to cost around $50 million under the level principal method, the estimated average cost on a tax bill for the first year would be $350. For year 15, the estimated cost is $250, and for year 30, the estimated cost is $150. If the project were to cost around $60 million, the estimated average cost on tax bills for the first year would be $450. For year 15, the estimated average cost would be $300, and for year 30, the estimated cost would be $200. For both project estimates under the level principal method, by year 31, the average cost on tax bills would be $0. However, Mr. Dunham explained that there is another debt payment method that could be used called level debt service. We could do level debt service where you could probably pay closer to $250 a year the whole 30 years, and then it goes to $0. That's a decision that the Select Board makes when they go to issue the bonds, Mr. Dunham said. Finance Committee member Nancy A. Crossman asked if the town has looked at separating the construction of the DPW and the fire station by a number of years. The way it would work, they are not physically connected because the typography of the site is so bad and so difficult, it actually made sense to build the DPW while the existing DPW stays in existence, move them, take down the old DPW, and build the fire station at the new site, Mr. Dunham said. Finance Committee member Matthew D. Anderson reminded the committee that inflationary costs of construction have increased over time. Delaying the pain might make for more pain, he said. Had we done these projects a decade ago, when we started talking about it, we would be looking at numbers half the size, if not less, so I think the longer we wait, the more we end up spending in the long term. An official estimate cost for the projects is still in the works. Our next headline is Air National Guardsman Jack Teixeira court-martialed by Michael J. Roche. Jack Teixeira, the Massachusetts Air National Guard airman who was sentenced to 15 years in prison for leaking classified U.S. national security documents online, has been court-martialed after pleading guilty to military charges of obstructing justice. Mr. Teixeira, 23, of Dighton, entered the guilty plea on March 13 during court-martial proceedings that were held at Hanscom Air Force Base. In return for his plea, Mr. Teixeira will not serve any additional time beyond his 15-year sentence, but he will be dishonorably discharged from the service. Prosecutors at the court-martial had pressed for a harsher sentence, arguing that Mr. Teixeira knew he had done something wrong and made attempts to prevent law enforcement officers from uncovering the truth. Ultimately, Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Peter Havern, who prosecuted the case against Mr. Teixeira, claimed satisfaction with the outcome. The dishonorable discharge was the important issue for us because I think it accurately reflects what his actions were, what his crimes were, Lieutenant Colonel Havern said. There was a piece of it where we said we need a military punishment as well, and that is why the dishonorable discharge was important to us as an institution, to tell our airmen, to tell our civilians and Americans that we take this very seriously. We are going to make sure your military record reflects it for these actions. In a statement to the court, Mr. Teixeira attempted to explain his actions by claiming he acted on my moral truth as an American and a patriot. He added that he is willing to accept accountability and understands that he will be incarcerated for the next decade plus. In March 2024, Mr. Teixeira pleaded guilty to 6 federal counts of violating the Espionage Act. Last November, he was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison to be followed by 3 years of supervised release. He was accused of one of the most damaging U.S. national security intelligence leaks in recent years. By the time of his arrest in April 2023, he had posted hundreds of highly classified documents on social media. The leaked documents included information about Ukraine's bleak chances in its war against Russia, and Taiwan's shaky air defenses against any potential assault by China. Mr. Teixeira also removed documents from Joint Base Cape Cod, where he worked as a computer technician in the 102nd Intelligence Wing, and brought them to his home in North Dighton, where he photographed and posted them online. Mr. Teixeira told the court that during his time with the 102nd Intelligence Wing, he was granted access to classified information, and that he chose to share some of that information with the public. He said in his statement to the court that he knew at the time his actions were illegal. As part of the plea agreement, Mr. Teixeira admitted that he used a hammer to destroy a cell phone, a computer hard drive, and an iPad after seeing some news reports of the leaked documents. He also admitted to telling a friend to destroy messages that they exchanged on a communication app. In his statement, Mr. Teixeira admitted that he acted alone. He also noted his belief in the deep state, as well as his opposition to the Biden administration and the United States' involvement in Ukraine's war with Russia. Mr. Teixeira claimed he was a victim of a weaponized Department of Justice under the Biden administration. He has requested that President Donald J. Trump and his administration review his 2 cases, last week's court-martial and his conviction in March of last year for a possible pardon. An Air Force investigation revealed that a lack of supervision and a culture of complacency allowed Mr. Teixeira to leak the information to Discord, an online gaming platform. The online post spread to other social media sites, including X, formerly known as Twitter. The investigation also determined that 3 individuals in Mr. Texeira's supervisory chain knew of as many as 4 separate instances of security incidents. Those individuals failed to report those incidents, and their inaction allowed Mr. Texeira to share the sensitive information online, the Air Force reported. Some personnel who Mr. Texeira reported to directly were permanently removed from their jobs. Among those disciplined was Colonel Sean Riley, commander of the 102nd Intelligence Wing. Colonel Riley was eventually relieved of duty. Our next headline is Soil Borings to Begin as Part of Bridge Replacement Project by Michael J. Roche. Contractors working for the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, MassDOT, will begin conducting soil borings this spring as part of its preliminary work for replacing the Sagamore and Bourne bridges. MassDOT said that the tests will be done along state highways and on U.S. Army Corps of Engineers property located north and south of the Sagamore Bridge. The work to be done includes subsurface investigations and related vegetation management operations, MassDOT stated in a press release. The vegetation management operations, which may include the removal of some shrubs, brush, and branches, will allow work crews to conduct borings to extract soil samples. The samples will then be analyzed to learn about soil strength and composition. This information is critical to designing safe and durable bridge components and related infrastructure nearby, MassDOT said. Additional borings will be done north and south of the bridge in areas that do not require vegetation management work. Borings will be taken within the state highway layout and on Army Corps property on Route 3, Route 6, Route 6 Scenic Highway, Meeting House Lane, Sandwich Road, Cranberry Highway, State Road, Mid-Cape Connector, and the Canal Service Road. This work will enable future construction operations, the release stated. The work will take place during daytime and evening hours, MassDOT said. Many of the proposed borings and vegetation management activities will require temporary daytime and evening lane shoulder closures. On Route 3, Route 6, Route 6 Scenic Highway, Meeting House Lane, Sandwich Road, Cranberry Highway, and Mid-Cape Connector. MassDOT recognizes the importance of preserving Cape Cod's natural resources during this phase, and will only remove branches and vegetation when necessary to allow for access to drill rigs, equipment, and crews, the agency said. MassDOT spokesperson Jacqueline Goddard said that borings relative to the Sagamore Bridge replacement is ongoing, and that between now and November, all borings will be either USACE or state property. Any borings done adjacent to the state highway and that require free removal will not be done until this coming November, Ms. Goddard said. Tree removal on USACE property will be done prior to April 15th, she said. MassDOT plans to do borings on private properties in November, and some borings may require tree removal, Ms. Goddard said. Private property owners will be notified before the start of any such work, and owners will be compensated for any actual damage resulting to such lands, she said. For information on traffic conditions, travelers are encouraged to download the Mass 511 mobile app. Visit www.mass511.com, dial 511, and select a route to hear real-time conditions or follow @MassDOT on X, formerly known as Twitter, to receive regular updates on road and traffic conditions. The Cape Cod Bridges program will include replacement of the Bourne and Sagamore bridges, new connections to the local roadway network, and improved multimodal accommodations within the Cape Cod Canal area. Our next headline is Who's on the Ballot? By Taylor Frizzetti. Nomination papers were returned to the town clerk's office on Thursday, March 20th. There are a number of contested races, including the select board race for the one-year term and the school committee race. However, candidates will have until Monday, April 7th at 4:30 p.m. to withdraw from the respective races. Both Select Board incumbents, R. Patrick Ellis and Charles M. Holden, have returned their nomination papers to keep their positions on the board. Dennis E. Newman, Jean J. Perini, and David J. Sampson have all returned their nomination papers for the one-year unexpired term on the Select Board. 2 seats on the school committee will be up for vote. Incumbent Danielle M. Binienda has returned her papers. Incumbent Christine Brown has not returned papers and has indicated that she does not plan to run for re-election. Newcomers Alexandra M. Higgins and Megan Tomorrow are both vying for a seat on the school committee. Candace S. Thompson and Ralph A. Vitaco are both running for a 3-year term as constable. Planning Board incumbents Melissa Dugan and Eileen M. Stars have decided not to run, making for 2 write-in positions on the board. Library Board of Trustee incumbents Robert T. Thompson, Gretchen L. Mulroy, and Evelyn J. Dewar have all returned their nomination papers. Weston Memorial Fund incumbent Jonathan P. Hagerstein has also returned papers for his position. Newcomer John E. Fox has returned his nomination papers for a 5-year position on the Housing Authority. Newcomer Christine D. Johnson-Staub has returned papers for a 1-year unexpired term on the Housing Authority. Taylor D. White has returned his papers for his position as town clerk. Lawrence B. Harrington has returned his papers for his position on the Board of Assessors, and Ronald J. Hurley has returned his papers for his position on the Board of Health. The election will be held on Thursday, May 8th. Our next article is Upper Cape Tech Presents Budget to Finance Committee by Taylor Frizzetti. Upper Cape Cod Regional Technical School Superintendent Roger D. Forget presented a budget with a slight increase over last year's budget during the Finance Committee meeting on March 11th. The preliminary assessment specific for Sandwich shows that last year's Sandwich's portion amounted to $3,064,980, and this year's Sandwich portion is $3,142,559, an increase of $77,579. The gross foundation budget for 2026 is $20,165,300. Last year, the gross foundation budget was $18.9 million. Mr. Forget said a number of budget drivers have contributed to the increase, including contractual obligations, health insurance increases, vocational supply costs, and increased student enrollment. Enrollment for Sandwich students has increased by 5 students. In general, enrollment has increased steadily over the years. During the 2022-23 school year, 793 students were enrolled at Upper Cape Tech. During the 2023-24 school year, 857 students were enrolled, and 871 students were enrolled during the 2024-25 school year. Our next article is Sandwich School District Awards Bid to Lucini Bus Lines by Taylor Frizzetti. Despite putting the student transportation contract out to bid, the school district has decided to stick with Lucini Bus Lines. The district decided to look at other options due to the existing contract with Lucini Bus Lines expiring at the end of the school year. 3 transportation companies submitted bids for a 3-year contract. Mercedes Cab Cape Destinations at $5,737,917, 5 Star Transportation at $6,430,661, and Lucini Bus Lines at $6,192,160. Although Mercedes Cab Cape Destinations was the lowest bidder, Superintendent Joseph P. Marusak said that the Rich Labrie of Alliance Education Associates, the firm that helped the district with the bidding process, found that the company did not meet the requirements of a responsible bidder. It's not just the bottom line dollars. You have to look at other criteria, Dr. Marusak said. The two requirements that the lowest bidder did not meet were that the contractor must be in the school transportation business in Massachusetts for at least 5 years, and the contractor must have at least 3 current or former Massachusetts Public Schools transportation contracts with at least 10 vehicles per contract. Mercedes Cab purchased Cape Destinations in July 2023, and they therefore have not been in business as the current entity for the required 5 years. The bidding document prepared by Alliance Education Associate reads. The document further explains that Mercedes Cab Cape Destinations currently holds only one contract in Massachusetts with 10 or more buses and one former contract for 22 buses that expired in 2019. The school committee approved of awarding the bid to Lucini Bus Lines. I just wanted to tell you how happy I am with the vote and that you have the confidence in us to do the job. We have been here for 5 years and we enjoy it, and we are hoping to continue, said owner Bill Lucini. Our next article is Sandwich Student Featured at Upper Cape Tech and College Fair. Upper Cape Cod Regional Technological High School hosted its annual College and Career Fair on March 13th. The fair hosted almost 60 colleges, universities, and technical schools and included all U.S. military branches. It also featured current Upper Cape Tech students working in co-op positions throughout the Cape. Senior Brianna Texera of Sandwich, a student in the Health Technology program, currently works her co-op job at Cape Cod Hospital. Upper Cape Tech has really prepared me for the nursing field, including helping me to get my CNA, she said. My plans after graduation are to go to college to become an RN and to work as a trauma nurse. Some 37 local businesses attended the fair, offering paid co-op positions, after-school and summer jobs, and entry-level career opportunities for graduating seniors who stay within their selected trades. The purpose of the fair is an effort to enhance student understanding of their post-secondary education and career options. Students who maintain C or better grade averages are eligible to participate in paid co-op starting midway through junior year and for their entire senior year. During their shop cycle week, co-op students work 30 to 40 hours a week with a local employer within their trade. On alternating weeks, co-op students return to UCT, Upper Cape Tech, to participate in their academic courses. Of the Commonwealth's 28 vocational technical schools, Upper Cape Tech had the highest percentage of students participating last school year, with 57% of eligible juniors and seniors participating in the paid program. Upper Cape Tech has had 3 consecutive record years of high co-op participation and student earnings. For the 2023-2024 school year, 209 juniors and seniors participated in co-op, with their gross earnings at $1.4 million. The current school year is already quickly approaching last year's record numbers, with 207 students participating in co-op as of mid-March. Upper Cape Tech has fostered excellent working relationships with local employers who depend on our trained students to fill voids within their skilled workforce, said Nolan Leroy, Upper Cape Tech Vocational Director. Many of the employers not only employ students, but also employ Upper Cape Tech graduates. Some employers are graduates themselves. Our next article. Town meeting to be held at the Center for Active Living by Taylor Frizzetti. Town moderator Sean B. Roche plans to hold Town Meeting 101 at the Center for Active Living on Wednesday, April 16th, with a tentative start time of 5 p.m. The informational event will cover what town meeting is, the voting process, and how to make motions and amendments. I want people to have the opportunity to feel like they can go and learn about it, so when they go to town meeting, they can be a confident and active participant, Mr. Roche said. Attendees will be able to participate in a mock vote and hear from Town Clerk Taylor D. White and Town Manager George H. Bud Dunham. Participants will also be able to ask Town Council questions regarding town meeting. Mr. Roche says that he hopes to run town meeting school semi-annually. We're still an open town meeting, so everybody has a voice, everybody has a vote, and I want to make sure that they're very capable and confident of utilizing those, Mr. Roche said. Our next article, Assistant Building Inspector Named Building Commissioner, by Taylor Cruzetti. The Select Board authorized Town Manager George H. Bud Dunham to appoint Assistant Building Commissioner Ian Reed as the new Building Commissioner on March 13th. Mr. Reed will assume the role held by Brendan W. Brides, who plans to retire in April. Mr. Reed has served as the Assistant Building Inspector in Sandwich since January 2023. Within this role, Mr. Reed conducts field inspections in order to enforce state building code, town bylaws, and other relevant safety codes and laws. As the Assistant Building Inspector, Mr. Reed works closely with a number of town departments on a variety of issues and conducts emergency inspections when required. Prior to his role as the Assistant Building Inspector, Mr. Reed was the owner of Riverdale Carpentry since 2014. In that role, he interacted with customers, gave cost estimates, and was responsible for project designs and contracts. Before that, he was a self-employed carpenter since 2000. In this role, Mr. Reed became knowledgeable to building codes and implementation and performed physically demanding work in difficult environments and conditions. Mr. Reed holds a technician certification in civil engineering from Dublin Institute of Technology and a degree in computer application from Dublin City University. In our experience with Mr. Reed, he is an intelligent and dedicated professional who is cooperative, collaborative, and professional. He is a team player who deeply cares about his work, his colleagues, and takes his responsibility seriously, Mr. Dunham wrote in his recommendation to the Select Board. Our next article is Mashpee Man Launched into Space. It honors his love for exploration, by Lauren Serby. Mashpee can now say it has launched someone into space. As a certified space nerd, Mashpee resident David Lavender, who died in 2021, had one final wish: to be sent to space. With the help of his only daughter, Melanie Sharrow, he went in 2023 and will go again later this year. My dad and I were very close. He always had this love for space exploration and always brought me up to have that same kind of love for anything space-related, Ms. Sharrow told the Enterprise on March 4th. He would always tell me, I think kind of half-jokingly, when I die, I want my ashes launched into space. I was always like, okay, you got it, Dad. In the wake of her father's death, Ms. Sharrow looked to Celestis Memorial space flights to help fulfill Mr. Lavender's dream. I was very fortunate enough to be able to get him onto one of their launch programs, Ms. Sharrow said. It was so complete, too. Very official. I have a mission patch, and I'm looking at a plaque right above my laptop of his first launch back in 2023. Celestis Memorial Space Flights is a commercial space frontier memorial located in Houston, Texas. The company launches a portion of loved ones' cremated remains into near space, Earth orbit, or the lunar surface. Family and friends have the ability to watch their loved ones launch into space in a 3-day event. The first night is a dinner reception, the second is the memorial, and the third day is the launch. CEO and co-founder Charles M. Schaefer said that the organization has done 24 3-day events so far. More than 650 guests attended the last launch in January. There are 2 to 3 launches per year. I'm unaware of any other funeral or memorial service where you see that many people joyously high-fiving and celebrating. I think that's what makes us special in the area that we're in. It's been a long trip and it's been very educational, but also very rewarding, Mr. Schaefer said to the Enterprise on Wednesday, March 5th. We put more people in space than all the governments in the world combined. A portion of Celestis proceeds from each launch goes to various charities supporting science and the Earth. Each charity is figured on Celestis' website. Currently, the Spaceflight Organization is donating funds to the Nichelle Nichols Foundation. Ms. Nichols played Lieutenant Uhura in the original Star Trek television show in 1966. Her foundation is to support women in STEM. Mr. Schaefer said that Ms. Nichols flew on an early mission. Other public figures who were launched into space include 1960s icon Timothy Leary and Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry. It's really interesting to meet the families and listen to their stories, Mr. Schaefer said. Like Mr. Lavender, he was a space nut. He had other activities, but he loved Star Trek. He loved space. There isn't a more perfect celebration of life than this. Mr. Lavender was first launched into space in April 2023. He was a member in Celeste's Serenity flight, where he's scheduled to orbit the Earth for 7 to 10 years in a satellite. The launch burned out prematurely after 10 revolutions around the Earth, Ms. Sharrow said. As a result, Celestis reached out to Ms. Sharrow and the other families who had loved ones on that flight and offered to launch them into space again. In our contract with our clients, the successful completion of the service is the completion of the orbit, one time around and we're done. In the previous mission, we did that. We got them around 9 or 10 times, Mr. Schaefer said. Most of our missions go for multiple years, and people can track them on the website. We decided, even though the mission was successful from a contract point of view, we wanted to give everybody a second flight to have a chance for a longer service. Mr. Lavender is to be launched into space between October and December this year. He will be launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida. Cape Canaveral is another place my dad took me to when I was a kid, Ms. Sharrow said. We went to the Kennedy Space Center there. Watching him launch is going to feel very moving when that comes. Celestis launches people from several different locations, including the Vandenberg Space Force Base in Santa Barbara, California, and Spaceport America in Sierra, New Mexico. Mr. Schaefer said that Celestis generally tries to keep their launches in California and Florida because that gives people the best opportunity to try to view the launch. Ms. Sharrow and Mr. Lavender shared a love of places in Mashpee, including Wacoit Bay, Secaucet Beach, and Mashpee Middle High School. We loved sailing from Wacoit Bay to Martha's Vineyard, where my dad's sailboat was moored. We would rent a moped on the island and explore, then stay overnight in the sailboat, Ms. Sharrow said. We went camping frequently in Washburn Island and would harvest mussels and walk for hours exploring. Secaucet Beach was another place we frequently went. Some of his ashes are there. Ms. Sharrow said that she and her dad used to also fly Estes model rockets from the fields of Mashpee Middle High School. This is literally where I grew up, Ms. Sharrow said. He would get a kick out of it, honestly, getting some recognition from local news. He would love this. Mr. Lavender was a videographer for NBC 10 Boston. Later in life, he moved to Mashpee. He is credited with helping develop Falmouth Community Television. While in Mashpee, he remarried Lauren Lavender and welcomed 2 stepsons, Nicholas Johnson and Travis Johnson. Ms. Sharrow is his only biological child. This Celestis was his idea. I am his legacy. I am the last of his line. I am not having any children. Being the last heir of someone feels like, okay, we have to go big. We have to do something absolutely amazing, Ms. Sharrow said. It was only natural that I fulfilled his wish for him. Mr. Lavender grew up with a love of space. He grew up watching Apollo, the space program, and the moon landing. He was also a Star Trek fan and other science fiction and fantasy-related media. He always had this love for space exploration and always brought me up to have that same kind of love for anything space-related, Ms. Sharrow said. She added that he always helped her with science projects and that he left her all his documentaries, his books, and everything related to space exploration. Ms. Sharrow and her father often talked about going into space together. She said that she still hopes to one day be launched into space. When he was alive, we would say to each other, "Oh man, if there was ever an opportunity where we could go up in a commercial flight, we have to do it." Which I know we're just starting to get into that now. We're just starting to explore that kind of travel, Miss Sharrow said. That's still something I want to do if I ever get the chance. I don't care if zero gravity makes me sick or whatever. I'm going up. I would love to see Earth that way above, and just kind of fulfill that dream that we had together. As for her father's dream, Miss Sharrow said that she believes he would thank her for fulfilling it. We were just so close. It's been a long road of grief that will never end. This doesn't necessarily prolong the grief, but it honors how I feel. It honors the love we share that's still there. It honors our relationship and his love for exploration, Miss Sharrow said. I feel incredibly fortunate and privileged to be able to do something like this, to be able to afford something like this. It helps bring closure to a really tragic ending that he had, but honors his legacy. Mr. Lavender died in 2021 by suicide. I'm a big advocate for spreading awareness for suicide prevention and resources, Ms. Sharrow said. It was very, very tragic that he passed away this way. I don't blame him. It wasn't his fault. He lost his battle to mental health. Celestis, Ms. Sharrow said, has helped her grieve his death. The launch, brought me a lot. I feel closer to him on a spiritual level. It helped me get some closure, Ms. Sharrow said. He died so suddenly and so tragically that I was like, this is not the end for him. We're going to do better. This is how he's going to go. He's going to go up in flight and be launched in space. People and loved ones struggling with mental health are urged to contact the Suicide and Crisis Hotline at 988. Additional resources can be found on the Cape and Islands Suicide Prevention Coalition's website at cispc.net. The Duffy Health Center, the Cape Behavioral Health Center, and Sharing Kindness Cape Cod are additional local resources for those struggling with mental health on Cape Cod. Our next article is Beachfront Property Approved for Demo and Rebuild by Amy Rothman. A single-family beachfront home in Sandwich has been approved for demolition. A new home will be constructed in its place. Earlier this month, the Historic District Committee approved the final demolition plan for the home, located at 12 Captain Hook Road, during a meeting on March 10th. The home, built in 1966, sits just off Route 6A, tucked away hidden within the Sandwich Historic District. It also directly abuts a private beach in Sandwich. During the March 10th committee meeting, committee member Diane DeLeo called the home a quintessential Cape Cod cottage. Well, it's a big cottage, she said. It's definitely old Cape Cod. Doriv Nikoloff, owner of Nikoloff Architecture and Design, spoke on behalf of the owners of the property. The home was recently sold to a new owner last year for $2,200,000. The new owners wish to update and renovate the home, which still had some original features built in 1966. However, due to current town bylaws, the home, which sits in a floodplain, would need to be raised as much as 6 feet in order to be renovated. So, instead of raising the home, the owners opted to instead start fresh, Ms. Nikoloff explained. We're requesting on behalf of our clients that this house be demolished. It is in the floodplain, in a 4-way velocity zone, she said. We looked at renovating the house, but it was too difficult because we literally have to lift the house up 6 feet in the air. So that's one of the reasons why we'd like to have it demolished. There's so many codes to deal with at this point, and we have to honor them, Ms. Nikoloff continued. Committee members clarified a few details, such as the year the home was built and its square footage, before a motion was made to approve the demolition. A vote from the committee solidified the approval. Then the committee considered the approval of the new home that would be built in place of the existing home. The new home, as Ms. Nikoloff explained, would have 2 stories instead of just 1, which would add height to the home. However, Ms. Nikoloff explained that it would remain under 35 feet above ground. Because it is in the floodplain, we tried our best to keep it as low as we could. The new home would also be pushed significantly away from the beach and pushed farther to the right side of the lot. A raised deck is also proposed to sit in the space where the old home once sat, because the new home will sit much farther back, according to Ms. Nikoloff. Hearing no further discussion from the committee, a motion was raised to approve the plans to rebuild the home at 12 Captain Hook Road. Unanimously, the committee voted to approve the rebuild. Ms. Nikoloff clarified to the committee that the decision to tear down and rebuild the home was a very difficult decision for the client. Unfortunately, because there's so much work involved in picking it up, it's just sad, but it's where we are. A building permit must be obtained by the owners before the home can be rebuilt. Our next article is Library to Host Landscape Designer. The Sandwich Public Library will welcome Marie Chiepo, local ecological landscape designer and accredited organic land care professional, for a presentation about designing with native plants to create environmentally healthy landscapes on Thursday, April 3rd at 6:30 p.m. Ms. Chiepo, co-author of Guidelines for Cape-Friendly Landscapes for Clean Water, Healthy Yards, and Our Local Ecology, will present ways to plant an intentional, well-kept landscape that also supports a large diversity of wildlife. Ms. Chiepo is a leading authority in New England on the fields of ecological design and native plant horticulture. Her projects range from ecological restoration to the incorporation of native plants in a largely non-native landscape. An avid educator, she is a member of Ecological Landscape Alliance Education Committee and a frequent speaker for Native Plant Trust and Grow Native Massachusetts. The event is free to the public, but space is limited and registration is required through the library event calendar. For more information about this program or any of the upcoming programs and events planned at the library, please visit sandwichpubliclibrary.com. Sign up for the weekly e-newsletter and follow the library on Facebook and Instagram. Our next article is After Losing Their Son, Family Looks to Establish a Cape Retreat for Grieving Families by Devin Ankeny. A family whose young son died in a skiing accident in 2019 is hoping to establish a home in Falmouth where other families who have lost a child or a parent can escape their everyday lives for a week, free of charge. Susan C. Furphy Shaw, who grew up in Falmouth, and her husband Nicholas A. Shaw have founded a nonprofit organization, Williams Be Yourself Challenge, to raise $2 million to purchase a house, ideally, they say, in Falmouth. The Shaws, part-time residents of Falmouth and Carlisle, lost their son, William Wolfgang Shaw, at age 9 during a ski trip in Big Sky, Montana. In the shadow of that loss, the Shaws gained support from their community and their family, but also in traveling. The attempts to get away and find memories that do not rely so heavily on grief were huge for the family, Ms. Shaw said. However, not everyone has the ability to get away when experiencing a loss. That is what the Greenhouse aims to provide. We were able to do a whole host of things to support us in our early grief journey. One of them was traveling, Ms. Shaw said. But we know that so many families don't have the capability to do that after they lose either a child or a parent. Ms. Shaw said the fundraising campaign started in early December, but on Wednesday the Shaws kick-started a new phase of fundraising for the project with a promotional video titled The Greenhouse, From Our Hearts to Yours. Thus far, the project has raised just over $203,000. The nonprofit is an expected timeline of about 2 years to purchase a home on Cape Cod. Ms. Shaw said that the Cape holds a special place in her heart, and she hopes that others experiencing grief can create new memories that you can lean on, like she and her family did. I still feel a sense of lightness as I cross over the bridge, and it's been that way, since I left, she said. It does feel like a destination. Falmouth is not the definite location for the Green Place, but it is a strong preference. She said the nonprofit is looking all over the Upper Cape and nearby areas to operate the home. The home is meant to serve some of the many families that experience the loss of a child or parent, Ms. Shaw said, adding that not everybody knows how pervasive family member loss is. The name, the greenhouse, comes from William's favorite color. Green was more than his favorite color, though. It was an obsession. He always got the green cup, Ms. Shaw said. That personal note, alongside the analogy to greenhouses in which plants grow and flourish, are coupled to create an image of comfort and growth, she added. Love and hope grow in the greenhouse, Ms. Shaw said of the goal. The $2 million goal is planned to include the purchase of the home and to help with the renovations and work to curate a comforting space. The home is planned to have an exercise room, a reflection area, and maybe even a sports court, Ms. Shaw said. The nonprofit also intends to start a trust to maintain the home. The Shaws have 2 other children, Kai G. Shaw, 12, and Badhi S. Shaw, 4. The family has regularly put on fundraising and support events in Carlisle and elsewhere. While $2 million is a lofty fundraising goal, Ms. Shaw said she expects to make it. If not, though, she said the nonprofit is open to renting or getting a mortgage, whatever makes the greenhouse open. We're really just looking for people to start talking about the greenhouse, Ms. Shaw said, and sharing our message of wanting to support those grieving families. A home on the Upper Cape may only realistically serve those within driving distance, as the nonprofit does not yet have plans to support travel expenses, she said. That being said, the future of this innovative initiative is up in the air. Ms. Shaw said an Upper Cape home could be just the beginning of grief support homes in other regions across the country. Maybe this is just the first house, she said. Maybe we have a network of homes across the country someday. Those interested in learning more about the nonprofit and its efforts, or who wish to donate to the greenhouse, can do so at williamsbeyourselfchallenge.org. Our next article is County Delegates Demand Action on Housing Crisis. Members of the Barnstable County Assembly of Delegates called for urgent regional action to address Cape Cod's deepening housing crisis following presentations from the Cape Cod Commission and the Barnstable County Department of Human Services at Wednesday's Assembly meeting. Christy Senatori, director of the Cape Cod Commission, underscored the severity of the housing crisis, emphasizing the impact of skyrocketing home prices and wage stagnation. The COVID-19 pandemic only exacerbated the housing challenges that we have had historically, Ms. Senatori said. The urgency of taking action moving forward regionally is now. The Commission's regional housing strategy and a presentation on the county's new shared housing services pilot project prompted a robust discussion among delegates on the need for coordinated county-wide efforts. Pushing back on concerns that new housing strategies might undermine Cape Cod's character, Deputy Speaker Daniel Jessen said, "When people talk about protecting the character of Cape Cod, it's important to recognize that our housing policies have done less to preserve that character and more to protect property values." Mr. Jason warned that the region's demographics are shifting dramatically, threatening the Cape's identity as a family-centered community. When I was born in 2000, the average age on Cape Cod was 40. Today it's nearly 58. We're losing the families that once defined our community. That's why our school populations are shrinking and why we've seen closures like the Falmouth Maternity Ward, he added. Delegate Michaela Wyman Colombo of Mashpee advocated for a redevelopment-first approach to minimize environmental impacts. Is there a clear prioritization for redevelopment? She asked, because I believe that is a strategy we can begin to implement without disturbing environmentally sensitive lands. She also emphasized the importance of creating deed restrictions to ensure long-term affordability. Echoing the need for continued dialogue, Speaker Randy Potash emphasized that those discussions are only the beginning of the county's efforts to address the crisis. This is exactly the kind of critical regional issue where the Assembly can play a leadership role, Mr. Potash said. I look forward to the Cape Cod Commission joining us for a committee meeting in April to continue this important conversation. Our next article, Cape Cod Healthcare, DA announced substance use disorder program. Cape Cod Healthcare has pledged $1 million over the next 4 years to support a program addressing substance use disorder, spearheaded by Cape and Islands District Attorney Robert J. Gulleyboy. The first installment of the pledge will support implementation of a critical incident management system that will help local police departments across the Cape document and respond to overdose and behavioral health crises. This tool connects the network of local police departments, the district attorney's office, and key social service organizations in their focus on overdose management and community recovery support, helping to fight drug trafficking and ensure that those in our community struggling with substance use disorder can access the treatment and resources they need. Cape Cod Healthcare's initial funding installment of $250,000 for the first year will be used to invest in and expand the Critical Incident Management System software platform, staff a new Critical Incident Management System liaison who will serve as the region's Critical Incident Management System coordinator, implement training for police departments across Cape Cod, and build a network of social service agencies who will link into the system. Program design and planning will begin in July. Allocation of the remaining funding, $250,000 a year, will follow over the next 3 years to implement, expand, and improve the network. Obituaries. John B. Glode. John B. Glode of Sandwich died on March 17th. He was 86. Services are private. Other obituaries. Hildegard B. Chase, 97, of East Falmouth, died on March 12th. David B. Holmes, 69, of East Falmouth, died on March 16th. Paul J. Giannetti, 75, of East Falmouth, died on March 15th. Robert A. Grady, 91, of Mashpee, died on March 16th. Patrick J. Madden, 57, of Falmouth, on March 8th. Cicely G. Martiros, 87, of Shrewsbury, died on March 17th. Arlene G. McManus, 95, of Waltham, died on March 15th. Barbara Soderland, 88, of Falmouth, died on March 13th. Timothy J. Sullivan, 46, of Mashpee and Bourne, died on March 13th. Rosalie J. Parabicoli, 87, of Sagamore Beach, died on March 16th. Robert W. Parady, 77, of Bourne, died on March 9th. Christian A. Westling, 32, of Plymouth, died on March 13th. In arts and culture, Cape Symphony Presents is bringing Kulomba to Falmouth. Cape Symphony Presents will host professional vocal ensemble Kulumba on Cape Symphony's Falmouth campus on Saturday, March 29th at 4 p.m. Kulumba is known for close harmony singing in a repertoire spanning American folk, Georgian, Corsican, Balkan, and Renaissance music. The group's performances blend traditional and contemporary influences. Kulumba, meaning dove in Corsican, is founded in longtime friendships, New England singing traditions, and a shared passion for harmony. Each of Kulumba's vocalists has international touring experience and deep roots in folk singing communities. From ancient folk tunes to original compositions, their shows weave harmonies with stories. Well, that is all that I have time for. This is Shannon, your reading. Wishing you a very happy day and a good start for the spring. Thank you so much. Bye.